You're listening to the Bon Ree Show. It's 8 in the evening. Tune in every night at 8 to listen to the Bon Ree Show on Irish News Radio or ITV.ie. And you can contact anything that you've heard or if anything you'd like to discuss at news@irishnews.net.
We got sold out. We got sold out. We got sold out. We got sold out. We got sold out.
You're listening to the Bon Ree Show on ITV.ie and Irish News Radio. So today is Friday. I'm going to be talking about Antifa because they've really started stepping up their bullshit campaign. And I'm really beginning to wonder, I actually do believe they are paid by the government. They're like everything that the government wants to force on the people. Antifa is trying to push down people's throats. Like if you watch them, they're online calling Ben Gilroy a racist and a homophobic without any kind of evidence. And when you look into what they're saying, they definitely seem to be kind of paid trolls by the government. So they call out Ben Gilroy as a racist, and they ring up the pub which were supposed to be fundraising for Ben Gilroy in the Wicked Wolf in Blackrock. And they put pressure on this pub in Blackrock to cancel his fundraising, calling him homophobic and a racist. Absolutely shocking. And the worst thing about it is that the Wicked Wolf in Blackrock cancelled it on Ben Gilroy. And with no evidence other than this Antifa, which are obvious working for the government because their complete agenda against everything against, like Ben Gilroy was a good person. He talked out about the banks. He saved people from being thrown out on the cold streets who've been evicted. So this Antifa just seems to be just calling anybody who stands up to the government or banks racist and homophobic. It seems to be the rhetoric. And then they go on to saying that they were putting the LGB and immigrants and women into danger. Now, how was Ben Gilroy putting LGB or migrants or women in danger? It's complete bullshit. They are paid trolls to cause this crap. And unfortunately, Wicked Wolf fell for it and they stopped him being an innocent, which would have been fundraising. Now, the fundraising is going on the streets, which is shocking that a pub we just closed that down. It's really, really, really shocking. But they go on to, there's a guy called Christian Morris who is Antifa, who's in Antifa, and he basically, his beef, so he says, with Ben Gilroy is that he called Ben Gilroy, so he says, called him a paedophile. I don't know why, if it happened or not, if it didn't happen, or why Ben Roy called him a paedophile, or if he is a paedophile. But it just seemed to be a government-run agency. There was another one for Air Exit in the Glen Hotel in Waterford. And again, the Antifa tried to ring up and try to cancel the Air Exit meeting. Now, for some reason, thankfully, the Glen Hotel in Waterford refused to cancel their meeting. So it's a bit odd the way Antifa seem to be going against anything that the government would like them to go against. And the more you look at it, you really kind of pick the dots together and start thinking, God, this is really ran by it's like a government troll. They really are. And the more you look at it, the more you kind of think the government must be paying these guys to get on and cause trouble and to get people to turn on themselves, like people like Ben Gilroy, who's literally just helping people from being evicted from their own homes. It's like to keep the propaganda of the government going with their bullshit and paid trolls. That's really what it is. Sinn Fein is another interesting, like, what have they done? What have they changed since they've had the voice for the national community? They haven't spoken up for the nationalists at all. In fact, they've disappeared their voice. Another one that's just, silenced the nationalist voice in the Sixth and in the Republic, the so-called Republic. We're not really a Republic, we're in the EU, which Sinn Fein loves the EU. And the only thing that Sinn Fein, the only difference that has changed since they've become the leader voice for nationalists, is that they've become a lot wealthier, very wealthy, extremely rich. And that's the only difference that Sinn Fein have done. They've silenced the national voice. In fact, they don't talk for nationalists anymore. They talk for the socialist agenda. They don't talk for the nationalists. In fact, they say they look down on nationalists or people who want an independence Ireland. They say that's not what they want. And Peder, the new guy, Peder Tobin, who left Sinn Fein, who started up his new party, Anna too. That's the new name of his party. It's pretty much the same bullshit as Sinn Fein. He has absolutely the same agenda, open borders. He's even calling out he wants to build an Ireland, as if Ireland wasn't built already and the Irish weren't here. So build an Ireland with different backgrounds. So he wants a new Ireland with different backgrounds. Now, of course, if you're British or if you're Anglo-Irish or Jewish, you're not part of that new Irish. You will be Muslim and black for the new Ireland. But yeah, with different backgrounds, build an Ireland as if there wasn't an Ireland already. We have an Ireland. And it's full of native Irish. It's absolutely shocking that, that so for Sinn Fein and people who thought and grew up to believe that Sinn Fein was a nationalist party. Far from it. They're anti-nationalists. And they don't want an independent Ireland. Yeah, they'd like a 32, but under the EU. I think they're also paid by the EU in Brussels. There's an awful lot of criminality going on with these government and political parties. And probably always was, but it's very obvious. And with Antifa, it's very obvious that they're being paid by the government or by the EU because they're going after people who are standing up for people and their rights, like Ben Gilroy, and literally call him a homophobic and a racist. That's what they're calling him out as. Absolutely insane. So if you don't stand up for what the government wants, Antifa comes and calls you a racist and close you down and are able to close down hotels. How can they have so much control over this? And one of the ones that they tried to close down, which was Air Exit in Waterford, they put it on and said that, they refused to cancel it. So they want everybody in Antifa, other Antifas, to ring this hotel and give abuse to. Surely this is against the law. And they were saying, oh, use your freedom of speech to actually attack this hotel. Like, that should go under incitement to hate. I mean, that is a real thing for an incitement to hate. And they shouldn't be allowed, but they do look like they're Antifa are trolls for the government. And that's for Sinn Fein build an Ireland. We have an Ireland already. How will we build an Ireland? Like, it's just change in Ireland. Take the nationalist community or the Irish out who you're supposed to represent, take them out, which is an absolutely disgrace. And then another part, the EU now ambassadors will say that the British do not need a visa to go on holidays to Europe. Europe is a continent. Britain or England is in Europe. The British Isles, which includes Ireland, is in Europe. You can't go in holidays. They are in Europe, but they're on an island in Europe. It's a continent. It's not a company. The EU own it. So, but anyway, they've said that the British will not need a visa to go on holidays. How good of them. And when they're in Europe, they can go to anywhere in Europe up to 90 days. They are in Europe. It's a ridiculous kind of twisting facts to it's all insane, absolutely insane. And I really do think the more I look into Antifa, and the head of Antifa, Pat Corcoran, a few years, was a paedophile. Now, he was caught with over 70,000 pornography pictures of children. And at the time he was working in a government agent, he was working for tourism, and in the Gaeltacht area, the for tourism and trade in Ireland. He was a government official, and he was caught with paedophilia all over his computers in work, so in the government, and in his home computer. And he was charged, but he was let go with a slap on his hand, which is quite shocking. And it was obviously because of his position he was let go. You wonder how many other paedophiles are in the government. Pat Corcoran, who set up Antifa, who was also pro-choice, as I like to call it, who was bringing in abortion to Ireland, he was a known paedophile with many videos of children being raped, 7,000 when he was caught, which is quite shocking. And yeah, the government then, like, he was working for tourism trade, which is quite shocking. Obviously he was let go, but you wonder how many are else in the government, because he set up Antifa, so it is a government kind of connections there. It's very strange. And Antifa on one post had declared that they were on some program and they were talking about sexualizing children. And this was the Antifa from Ireland. Quite disgusting, quite disturbing the more you look into Antifa. Thank you for listening on The Bon Ree Show. This is ITV.ie and Irish News Radio. You're listening to The Bon Ree Show on ITV.ie and Irish News Radio. Today is Friday. We were talking about Antifa, and the more we look at it, the more it looks like the government has paid Antifa. And in the past, the head of Antifa, which was Pat Corcoran, a well-known paedophile who was caught with 7,000 tapes of children being raped, he was caught when he was working as part of in the government to do with tourism and trade, with pornography, with child pornography on his work desk, which would have been in the Irish government, to do with one of the government. And in his home he was caught with also children being raped on his home computer, and he was a government official at the time. And he was let off with a slap on the wrist. But the more we keep looking at Antifa and the abuse that they will give anybody who speaks up for the indigenous Irish, it looks like they are definitely a paid troll by the Irish government. So they first attack, they've attacked many people who speak out for the Irish or about immigration and how dangerous it is for the Irish indigenous, anything to do with the indigenous Irish. But Ben Gilroy was standing up for the indigenous Irish being thrown out into the cold streets. So they rang and they hassled the Wicked Wolf in Blackrock to close down it, and they actually did, which was unfortunate. They did close down the fundraising, which would have been for him, and all Ben Gilroy did was to save people from evictions or help them from being thrown out on the cold streets. Quite shocking, really. But the Irish government have now done a very interesting, not an interesting thing. Instead of spending on homeless, and we've had, you know, God knows how many, they're saying up to 25,000. People are even saying higher, homeless on the streets and hidden homeless. So you have now the Irish 100,000 on a video for Bono as a part of the UN. Now we know, we've looked at the UN before, and its majority is Islamic countries. It's not for peace, it's not for anything but pushing sheer outlaw into the West. So they have spent 100,000, which 100,000 would clear up an awful lot of Irish homeless problems, and a lot of money that should have gone to the Irish people. as a part of a 500,000 bid to win a seat on Security Council. Now, why would they want to win a seat on a UN Security Council? The 5-minute video of Bono, it's ridiculous. And Simon Covey, well-known connection with Soros, as well as Michael D. Higgins. Simon Covey, he was caught going to a Bilderberg meeting, along with Bono, who's a good friend of Soros, also caught with another meeting with Soros. They're all like linked together. This is the complete elites attacking the working class and the middle class Irish, and the Irish government being a huge part of this new world order and anti the native indigenous Irish, and a complete way of putting them down. And completely getting rid of the Irish from Ireland. It's an absolutely disgrace. The more you see the links and all these people like Bono who's screaming out, save Africa, don't save the Irish at all. Well, thank you very much for listening on The Bon Rees Show.
You are listening to Irish News Radio and irishnews.net. Email news@irishnews.net.